Well, hey guys, I'm Tim Langston with Red Dog Bushcraft, and to continue on with the project of let's get ready to go fishing, we cleaned the rod the other day, and I thought today we would cover just how I clean my reels. It's pretty simple, but I found the way that I think is pretty effective. I got a couple of good tips for you, so join me as we start this process. Now, the first thing you need to do is to find you a place that your rod down at the grip, down at the handle, will fit so that it will hold securely, so you don't have to manage and hold that rod. Because the first thing we need to do is get this line off of this spool. So we're going to detach that from the little line keeper here so that it can free spool off and keeping it away from the bail. Once my rod is secured, I'm going to run that up through the very first eyelet, and you only need to use the first eyelet here. And then we're going to use the workout method, the arm workout method, to strip all of the line off of this reel. I'll reposition the camera back a little bit further so you can see exactly how I do that. Okay, so now I'm just going to reach up and grab the line, hand over hand, holding all of the line with one hand, and I pull it off with the other. Now, this does a couple of things. Number one, it's the fastest way I found to pull your line off by hand. And you want to do this by hand. You don't want to do this out on the lake or whatever, because you don't want to take a chance of losing this line. You want to dispose of this stuff properly. It's terrible on the fish and game and wildlife to leave this stuff laying around. But you just continue like this until you've got a good sized handful of it, and then you can dispose of it nice and easy, and it doesn't get tangled up anywhere. So let me get the rest of this off and I'll be right back. Once all of our line is off of our spool, we can remove the spool, and then whatever the manufacturer calls for your reel, you can go ahead and lube that. Mine calls for just a little bit of grease, so we're going to put just a touch of high quality grease on this shaft. No oil required on this one. And then we'll place that back on and lock it in. The other thing we want to do is, if this reel was really dirty, I like to wash mine with Dawn dishwashing soap. I think it does a real good job of cleaning things up. It doesn't leave a lot of residue, and it washes off nicely. Now, with the handle removed, I can use a reel lubricant, and we want to put just a drop where that seats on this side and on the other side where that bearing race is in there. And I always put just a drop on the shaft itself, and that's not really for anything except just helping protect that and keep it from corroding up. Then I can reassemble that, slide the handle in on one side, put the retaining nut on, well, drop that. Make sure all of that's cleaned up, no dirt in there, and replace that retaining nut. Now, to clean the rest of the reel, there's a lot of things you can do, but the best product that I've found and what I've been using for years now is just plain old WD-40. And I know there's all kinds of, it's a light lubricant, it doesn't do this, doesn't do that. Well, you're actually doing a couple of things, and I just put it all over that reel. I don't worry about putting too much. I just squirt it on there real good, making sure I've got everything coated. But then come back and I'll wipe it all off. I try to get every piece of that oil off, and what I leave will dry pretty quickly and will not affect any of your lines or so forth. I haven't had any issues with it at all. Hold that reel, get it down in all the little nooks and crannies, get all that dust and dirt out of there, and just brighten and clean up that reel. Brighten it up. You know, just wiping it down, cleaning it. Sometimes just a little bit of lubricant on these things and keeping them clean affects the performance and keeps them serving you well for a long time. After this is all wiped down, allow it to set and dry. and she's ready to put some fresh line on. After the reel has completely dried and all of that oil has been wiped off, it's time to put some fresh line on it. And I've got a piece of orange paracord here so that I can show you the way I attach my line to the reel. First of all, we need to thread the line through the eyelets of the rod. Then I do a Canadian jam knot. I tie an overhand knot in the end of my fishing line. Then I place the line around the spool, making sure that my bail is open. And then I tie an overhand knot over top of the main line. Pull that down and then snug that down on the reel. And that end knot will slide down and bind against that reel. And as we flip our bail over, then we can go ahead and spool our line onto our reel. That's the way that we get it anchored to the reel itself. Now let's talk about actually putting the line back on the reel. I've attached my line to my reel in the exact same method as before mentioned with the paracord, and I've only run my line through the first eyelet. There's no reason to string up the entire rod at this time. Select a good quality line. I like to use this Berkley Big Game or Trilene XL on my spinning rods. They seem to hold up very well. And to choose the size of line, the reel usually has it stamped on the bail or on the reel itself of a line size option, and this was 8, 10, or 12 pound. And since this is going to be for larger freshwater or small saltwater, I chose to go right in the center, so I've chosen 10-pound Berkley Big Game. So holding tension all the way up here at the rod guide and laying my spool on a flat surface in front of me, just a couple of feet from the eyelet, with the label up so that the line is coming off of that spool in the same direction that it's coming onto my reel spool, I can then, holding slight tension between my thumb and my finger, I can start winding that line up. If I start to see it bind up and getting a lot of those little twists in it, I can take that and flip it upside down and work those back out. Now, of course, one of the things that I like to do is after I put line on a reel, if I'm on a motorboat the first time I'm out, I'll feed line out, let it just drift behind the boat, and then reel it back in, holding tension on the line. And once that line is stretched out and it's wet and you reel it back in, you can really get it flat. But it doesn't take you long at all like this. You don't have to have any special devices or anything to hold your spools. It goes on quickly. And you want to fill this spool until it's about 1/16 of an inch from this lip. And you'll know when it's too full. I mean, you can put a little bit of extra on there if you want to. And then once you've got your line cut and all, just open that bail and see how much line starts flaking off of the front of that reel. And if it's an excessive amount, just cut that off. And then you can use that for some leaders or other things. But here's about how full I put that line. That is about, I would say, 1/8 of an inch from the top. And when I open that, 3 or 4 curls come off and that's it. So I have the appropriate amount of line on there. Okay, so we've got our reel all clean, lubricated, and spooled up with fresh line. Now this reel has a line keep here on the spool itself that allows me to keep the line nice and neat and tight on the spool. If your reel does not have that, you can use just a small postage stamp size of electrical tape and place that on the reel, and that'll help keep that in place. I don't like pulling my line up through my eyelets and putting the hook on and attaching it back. Every time you make a bend, that's just a place that you can weaken that line, and keeping that line out and in the sun also affects that. I like to my rods and reels in the shade or covered up with a bag whenever I'm transporting them, whenever they're out of the garage. It just helps protect that line from that UV light, make your line last a lot longer. Okay guys, just a quick another getting ready tip. It's going to be time to go here real soon. I'm really looking forward to it. Until next time, I'm Tim Langston with Red Dog Bushcraft, home of global safety and survival. God bless.